Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. You're very welcome to this Plain English webinar on Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th today, folks. Um, yeah, you're all very welcome. How many people do we have in already? I think we have 82, 85, and it's creeping up, folks. This is fantastic. This is wonderful. Thank you for coming along. So I'm Sean from the National Adult Literacy Agency. I'll do a bit of housekeeping, I'll introduce the training, and yeah, then we'll get straight into it. So thank you all for coming. This is the last in our Plain English series for this year. We did three already, and this is going to be recorded, so please bear that in mind. And then we'll put the recording up on YouTube afterwards, so you have to share it with all your colleagues. Yeah, so like I said, we've done three already. We did one with guest speakers, which you can check out on YouTube about leading a culture of plain English. We had two fantastic guest speakers, Leanne Caulfield of Commission to Man and a colleague from Pushing the Pen in the UK, talking about how the work they're doing over there. We did one on forums and we did one on leaflets, and today we're doing writing for the web. So it's always great to know people, folks. So while more people are arriving and while you're getting settled, just in the chats, just in one message, can you say, hi, my name is Sean. I work in NALA. I'm a plain English editor. I'd like to learn this about writing for the web, or like what brought you here today, folks? What's one thing you'd like to learn? Might not be able to answer it today, but it might, help us design a resource or help us think about future webinars. So just put that in the chat. And then because it's the end of the year, folks, and we could all use a bit of Christmas joy, is there one thing you enjoyed this year, like a book or a movie or a song or a dance or anything? Just put like one kind of nice human thing, just to humanize it. So if everyone puts that in the chats while I'm going along, it'd be very nice because it's nice to see people and see people who are repeating. Yeah, lovely. So while you're doing that, folks, while you're introducing yourselves in the chat, you can ask questions at any time, make comments at any time, just put them in the chat. Sometimes I unmute people if they really want to speak. It's always great to hear people's voices, so we'll try to do a bit of that. I'm just delighted that so many different organizations are here. Folks, I'll hold my hands up. I put those images together from webinar one. So hopefully the same organizations are here, but we've a big group coming along. Yeah. Lovely. What also helps me, folks, is being able to see people. So if you're want to be like really engaged in the webinar, just say yes to camera in the chat. And then my colleagues Derv and Leanne, who I should have introduced earlier, I'm sorry, Derv and Leanne, are gonna help me with running the session. It's very end of year, it's kind of end of term kind of vibes here today, folks, but we'll do our best. So if you want your camera on to be part of the session, it always helps me as a presenter, say yes to camera. That would be helpful. Lovely. Yeah, so what the plan for today is, folks, is, what makes a good web page? What do you want from a web page? Practice to improve on, look at some real examples. Good practice, what can we learn? And then workshop, kind of putting you to work. So I want to thank people who have sent on samples of their organization's web pages, because that takes bravery to do it in front of your peers, but that's what it's all about. And then we're going to look at, what's strong about them, how can we improve them? So people are introducing themselves in the chat, which is great. Lovely. Thank you so much for that, folks. Great to see so many people from different organizations, from different parts. AIB, old friends like Adele from Waterford Works for ETB. Lovely. Lovely. Thank you so much, folks. That's really, really good. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question now, folks. So please do finish the introductions. It's so nice to see you. But I'm going to ask you a question to keep rolling along, and I don't want to kind of get the introductions and the questions caught. Yeah, lovely. Okay, so folks, in the chat, when you're ready, just put yourselves in the shoes of, person who uses the web, which is everyone. So when you go looking for information on the web, what makes a good web page? What do you want from a web page? So I'd like you to answer that question, folks, in the chat, and I'll give you a minute. Just have everyone thinking, what makes a good web page for you? What do you want from a web page? Thanks, Julian. It's a good way to kick it off. Yeah. Thanks, Beatrice. So I like Beatrice's answer because when we say things like good UX and good CX, I think there's like writing for the web now is like a whole discipline of itself. And you can call it content management, you can call it user experience, you can call it CX. Imagine it means content experience. So there's great tips and tricks and guidance out there from all different sorts of places. So we'll think about that. But it is like a real discipline writing for the web, and it's constantly changing and being updated. And yeah, so it's good to see that we've a lot of professionals here with experience. Then the kind of my more general things, folks, are like, yeah, I like Dee Dee's points there. Clear to the point, clear directions, not too busy, clear call to action, you know. If you look through them there from your colleagues, folks, you can see what people actually want. I like Bernie's there. Find the information I need as quickly as possible in a digestible and simple format. Thank, thank you, Bernie, for coming along. Yeah, all really good. So there we have good navigation, so don't get lost. Accessibility for people who find it hard to interact with the screen. Yeah. Fantia, I'm often frustrated by too big a banner and the interactive part of the page is too small and therefore hard to work with. Yeah. So Fantia, that's a really good point. And it applies to print, it applies to web. It's where we have a fantastic idea, we have a fantastic concept for something, and then we try to make the content fit the concept rather than let the concept be supported by the concept. So it's like, yeah, really, really good idea. Really, really good observation. Yeah. Ashling, able to find what I want quickly, less clicking. Yeah, website design for mobile devices. So there's so many different things, folks, that go into it. And we have an hour today, so hopefully we can cover some of those things and just, sharpen your plain English brains when it comes to writing for websites and designing for websites. Lovely. So my things that I thought about, folks, yesterday were I always think of websites and web pages and web content as like people come to with questions, people come to with needs. So answer the reader's question quickly and concisely. We're going to talk a little bit about user needs. You might be sick of hearing about user needs, but I think they're a great way to think about websites. Like, what does the person want to do? Some of the examples we'll look at where organizations are telling people, this is what we want to say, rather than trying to understand their readers or their service users and thinking, what do people need? What do people want? You don't want to overwhelm people with too much information. You often see that on web pages. And that's what people love ChatGPT. It's why people love Google, because they don't have to, read and so much. They can just scan or get the answers for them. And then, when you go looking for things, that's where, clear design comes through. Having clear links that are useful, easy to navigate, and then follows best practice for web accessibility. So, there's different ways to remember it. I like thinking about headings, having a clear structure, making sure there's alternative text for images, making sure links are descriptive, avoiding here and click here on long URLs. And then kind of what we'll focus on today is readability, making it kind of, easy to find what you want. So all those things, headings, alt text links, go without saying, very, very important, but we'll kind of focus on readability today. Lovely. Yeah, and so folks, hopefully you've come to some of the previous webinars. So just the top six for plain English. I want to just cover them. So you're probably sick of me banging on about these, but I want to put them in your brain so you're talking about them over the Christmas dinner table. So all about empathy, folks. Imagine your readers, speak directly to them. So again, big organizations, websites, we can put a lot of content up there, but are we actually speaking to people? Or are we just saying what the organization wants to say? Next one is using the active voice. So when I look at websites, folks, I see a lot of, we are doing this and we are doing this, which I think is great. And that's using the active voice. But I think on the website, you can think a lot more of like what we want you to do or what you can do, what we're giving you power to do. Why did you come to this website? It's not just to learn background information, it's to do something. So I'd love to see more you in websites in Ireland. Using everyday words, the words of your readers. So one of the organizations I think does this well is the HSE in Ireland and then the NHS in the UK. So they have great content guidelines around explaining technical terms and cutting needless jargon. So yeah, my mantra, folks, is cut the fluff and explain the stuff. So cut the unnecessary verbiage, legalese, officialese, and explain the real stuff. We'll talk about what's going on. Keeping sentences short. So on average, people need short things on the web. They need quick answers. So 15 to 20 words on average. So that doesn't mean every sentence has to be 15, 20 words, but it just means on average you're aiming for that. And yeah, and the inverted pyramid of writing. So this is like a familiar thing, folks. And you'll see this in, websites, you'll see it on newspapers, you'll see it in lots of things where you're trying to lead with the key information. It comes from journalism. It's about what's the key information. If you're writing an email, you want your subject line to have like be able to say what it's about very quickly. What's the ask, rather than burying the ask at the end. So inverted pyramid writing, think about the key message, the additional information in the middle, and extra information at the end. And then white space, headings and bullets to break up text. So big blocks of text on the web, big no-no. You look at how people are designing for mobile, it's short chunks, short chunks, short chunks, because people are scrolling, people are looking for information, trying to take it in very quickly. So short chunks information. Great. Okay. So if anyone's been to one of my trainings this week, folks, I apologize. I'm going to use the examples from this week, but I thought they were good examples. So we're going to look at the DSP. And the bad joke, folks, I made earlier was I typed in DSP into Google and I got Dublin Steel Pressings, but that's not the DSP we're looking at today. It is our friends in social welfare, who I think do a really great job. And I'm a big fan of the My Welfare webpage. And if you just look at that, folks, for a second, in terms of good practice and how can we help you today? And the icons and the colors and boxes and I think it's a good design. It's a good design, and they really are working hard to meet the needs of the people of Ireland. So we'll look at the gov.ie webpage, folks, and when we're looking at examples, they're just like when I'm doing training sessions, I pick up lots of examples from doing training sessions, and I think, oh, okay, this is interesting example. Maybe I can share this with a larger group of people, getting them thinking about it. So this is like the DSP's kind of landing page. And you'll see here we have these kind of top 5 pages: social welfare schemes and services, customer feedback, access officers under the Disability Act, social welfare statistics, and social welfare phone numbers. Okay, and then Christmas bonus dates, nice image. Okay, it's good. But let's look at this one, folks: access officers under the Disability Act. And I want you to think in terms of user needs. So that's on the screen there, folks. And I can also copy and paste it into the chat. So I'll do that in a sec. So not that one. So what I want you to do is I want you to have a read through that, folks. And it's a very simple question. It's what's strong about the web page? And then are there any things we can do to improve it in terms of meeting the reader's needs? All the things you talked about in the chat, what's strong, and is there anything we can do to improve the page, thinking about the reader's needs? And I want you to think about who is reading this. Okay, I don't want to talk, I don't want to say it, I want you to tell me. So what's strong, what can we improve? So no rush here, folks. Give yourselves a minute, 2 minutes, have a read through it, and then strong points, what can we improve in the chat? Take your time. I know, take your time. Yeah, really good feedback there, folks. And it's so great to read through it. You really do learn so much things when you ask a lot of people to look at a piece of content. Um, yeah, I might invite one person to speak if they fancy. So, Dee Dee, if you're there, I think your answers are really excellent. So if I type your name in here, Dee Dee, I can then give you access to the mic if you fancy speaking, Dee Dee. And I'd just like to hear, like, what's your thoughts on reading the page? Just to hear someone's voice.
Yeah, sorry. Hello.
Hi, Dee Dee.
Just reading it, I couldn't quite figure out what this team is actually going to do for me as a person who might need an access officer. I think it's only the 4th paragraph. Tells me, first of all, what they're not going to do for me, and then tells me what they might do for me. That was one thing. I think there was too much fluff really about like the regulations and how they were set up and things like that. And then I think access to them, to the access officers, is actually really limited. So it's only by email. But what if I would prefer to do a phone call? What if I don't have an email address? There could be a form potentially to access them, or contact me form. Those are some of my thoughts. I mean, it's very wordy. It doesn't exactly tell the user what they're going to be able to do for them.
Yeah, thanks, Dee Dee. Uh, that's excellent, Dee Dee. Does anyone else want to mention any points, folks? I think we've covered a lot in the chat, but just feel free to raise your hand using the raise your hand icon. I might ask one or two people. Anything else you'd like to say about the page? Anyone else want to come in? Dee Dee, you said it all. That's it. Thank you, Didi. Uh, Lovely. Um, Yes, all the things that you said, folks. I think one of the points I would like to just front load, and I'd like somebody else to make it, is about legislation. And who said there with the legislation? Yeah, so maybe Jonathan. So Jonathan, just if you fancy, just talk to me about like that in general. So I might give you the ability to speak now, if that's okay. Jonathan, I click that, allow mic. So if you feel comfortable, Jonathan, just tell us what's the effect of leading the legislation for you?
Yeah, I just think it's not really necessary. I think it's just enough to point out what access officers do, and I don't think there's any, there's no need to kind of mention the act. You could do it maybe down further because they mention the act down further, kind of at the bottom line, the act, and they mention it in the top line. So I think the act could go towards the bottom and kind of more so what the access officers can do for you, maybe towards the top.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. That's it. So, like when we work in organizations, folks, and when we work for the government, we do have to like cover ourselves. We do have to, explain statutory rights and things like that. But I think readers don't come to us, looking like primarily for their statutory rights to be explained. They come with a need, they come for it to be, answered. So I think we could just restructure this to kind of, be more user friendly like in that way. So it is a publication. So maybe there is a page on the DSP website or in the web content that does this. But I just picked up this because it was like top five on their website. So this is the part I'm always nervous about, folks. So yeah, but you go to town. So I know it's a bit small, but if you have a look through that, folks, and just what techniques am I trying to use? In terms of user need, plain English. Have a look at that. I know the writing's a bit small. Apologies for that, but have a read through that and what am I trying to do? And is it working? How can we improve it? Yeah, thanks, folks. So the headings, the bullets, shorter sentences. Um, Sometimes I think the trick to writing for the web is the if you situation. So if you're in this situation, you can do this. So we do a lot of work with citizens information, and we're also often looking at, okay, here's something about access officers. If you are in this situation, if you're in this situation, what's this? What's the case? Um, Lovely, folks. I'm glad that that's, is there anything ways we can further improve it? I think what Dee Dee said about maybe how to contact us, maybe that needs to be more ways we can do it, or, um, but yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point, Rochelle. I still don't think this speaks to people with disabilities. Yeah, I did think about that a lot. And as an editor, what you're doing is you're trying to take information that's there and trying to write it in a reader-friendly way. And then, like what you said, um, how can we improve it? So Mairead has points there which are good. Rochelle, um, yeah, organization links were necessary. Look, reading through Gillian's point, I feel like it may not be helpful to people of all disabilities considering it's only email contact. Good points, Gillian. Yeah, yeah. What is an advocacy service? Do we need to explain that? Could it be images to direct people? Yeah, I think like the judicious use of images on web can be helpful. You have to make sure that it's not interrupting the flow, that it's supporting the content, that it's not too much, and that you have alternative text. How to make a complaint is not clear. It's a good point, Thomas. So, like if we click on that web page to make a complaint, contact our inquiry officer, it brings you to a page on the inquiry officer, which is quite long. So, yeah, it's yeah. What does process quickly mean? Yeah, all good points, folks. So, um, all very valid. Thank you very much. I'll take them away, iterate on it, and yeah. So that's what I think about writing for the web, folks. It's always a process of like doing as much as you can in the time you have, asking for feedback, you'll get feedback when you launch it, and then incorporating that feedback into your process when you're updating it. Yeah, Emma Clark Conway, that's a good point. Like, so using click here, um, you know, it's not seen as great practice to use, click here for links. The best practice is seen to be, using descriptive text. So we'll look at that in more detail, but I would suggest like the way I've made it a verb there to make a complaints contact or inquiries officer. You're trying to make it so that if it's just read by a screen reader, that the link will be understood in that without context. So make a complaint contact or inquiry officer. You could probably make it a button a bit better, but that's what you're trying to do. Try to make the links descriptive. Like Section 38 of the Disability Act, you know what that's going to be if you just read the link. You know what the Section 26(2). Yeah, so it's a bit of an art, but we can look more at that as it comes up. Thank you, Emma. Clark. Grant. Lovely. Okay, so I'm going to move on from that example, folks. Thank you so much for working really hard at there. Yeah, so for me, folks, one of the resources I'm going to encourage you to get to know is from our friends in the UK. It's from gov.uk, and they have a great website. They have great style guides. The digital content team are seen to be experts around. They have a great blog. So if you're in the middle of a web project and you're looking for, what is good practice, who are people who speak with authority, but also have done user testing, it's gov.uk. So there's a great page on what our user needs. And, user needs, they sound complicated, but it's just not. It's just as this person, I need to do this so that I can do this. So they give you an example there. As a carer, I need to get financial help so that I can carry on looking after the person I care for. So it's like the more specific you can be, the more specific you can be, the better. The more specific you can be, the better. So just as an exercise, folks, I mean, just as an exercise in writing user needs, and the structure again is as a I want to, so I can. I mean, does anyone fancy writing potential user needs for anyone who might be using an access officer? And it requires just like the deep empathy to put yourself in the shoes of like someone you might know, or a friend or family member, or a service user, or just person. So why would anyone need an access officer when working the DSP? So just have a practice there, folks, of trying to make, as a very specific person, or you can say person with a disability, but it might be more specific than that. And I want to do this, so I can do this. So, I mean, yeah, anyone want to write a user needs in the chat just to practice it on that access officer kind of page? Have a go. Give yourself, have a think. Don't rush. As a person in a situation, I want to do this, so I can do this. Think about Christmas time. Think about different needs people have. Thank you, Colette. That is excellent. Thanks for kicking us off. I'll come back to that point, DD, in a second. But yeah, if it's a PDF, you want to tell people you're opening a PDF, basically, or an Excel. I think for a web page, you're okay, but for PDF. Yeah, they're really good, folks. They're really good. I'm not an expert in user needs, really. I've done a couple of courses in content design, but I think you have to kind of get past the, like, I want to communicate with an access officer. It's more like I want to, as a deaf person, I want to, like, what's the thing, like, beyond the access officer? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, what's the access officer going to help them to do? That would be my understanding, Kevin, if you get what I mean. So, like, go beyond just that to, like, what's the real needs? And the access officer is just a vehicle for getting that. Do you get me? But I think that's strong. Um, Lovely. Okay, so that's how user needs work, folks, and it can be useful just thinking in terms of personas as well. Like, who are the different people who might be looking at this and different, types of disabilities, and trying to develop, practical things. And I know people can be a bit like, they want to be inclusive. They don't want to say that's offensive and things like that. So very important to be respectful, but at the same time, you want to be practical and specific. I find sometimes when we're very vague on websites, that's where things um, get hard. Yeah. So just coming in, folks. Thank you, Adele. Thank you, Rochelle. Thank you, Mairead. Yeah. So if you look through that there, folks, you can just see like the variety of different user needs that might come under that access officer page. And when you start thinking like that, then you start thinking about, how to design your content to meet those needs. Lovely. Okay. Let's keep rolling along, folks. Thank you so much. The next thing I'm going to skip. That's all right. So we'll skip that. Um, so let's go to good practice, folks. So I've got a couple of examples of good practice, and um, like anyone, folks, I like coming across things in my work. So I'm not saying these are the best examples of website writing that I've ever seen in my life, but they're just things I've come across in recent times that I think are quite strong. Okay. So I'm going to show you a couple of them, and I'm going to put them in the chat, and then I'm going to give you a few minutes to take a look through one or two of them. So I'm going to talk about I'm going to ask you to take a look at the Preparing for Family Law Court page. Okay, so this is the court services, and we do training sessions with the court services, and they've been working hard trying to, modernize their processes and make it a bit more user friendly and use more empathy and just, write information in a way that's, meeting the needs of people. And they kind of, worked on family law a lot because it's a key one across Ireland. And they have this webpage preparing for family law courts. So I'm going to put that in the chat. If you fancy it, take a look through it. And I recently did. I know people from AIB are here, so I hope I'm not endorsing this. I'm just saying I came across and thought it was an interesting way, and what can we learn from it? So I came across Bank of Ireland's kind of services page, and I was struck by how many kind of verbs they were using and all the different actions they were doing. So if you work in finance, you might want to take a look at that one and say, oh, what's strong? What can we improve? What are we doing that's similar? What are we doing that's better? That might be one to look at. And then yeah, and then a plug for this one, folks. This is kind of scope. So if you work in social policy in Ireland, there's a newsletter published by the Citizens Information Digital Content team, and they have this kind of newsletter. It's a very quick read, but it packs in so much information in such a small space. So what I'm going to do, folks, is I'm going to put all of three of these into the chats, and I'm going to ask you to just read through the one that you think is most interesting. So if I just do this for one quick sec, folks, uh, bear with me. So the task is, folks, there's the family law court. There is the services part of Bank of Ireland. And then where is scope? The scope is in a different browser. I know I should have these queued up, folks, but there you go. Hopefully you can open scope. Sometimes you have to subscribe to it. So the task is, folks, just I think these are examples of good practice, can always be improved, but have a look through one you think is most interesting for you, most relevant for you. Take a couple of minutes, scroll through the different pages, think of the different readers it's trying to serve, and what do you think is strong about it. So I'll give you just 4 or 5 minutes, read through a couple of pick one or pick them all, and just go through it. I'm gonna stop talking. So just these are good practice. What can you learn from them? What's strong? What can we improve? Thank you. Yeah, good work, folks. Really, really dig in. I know the court service one is a bit long, so click into different parts in that landing page and take a look at how they're organizing the content. So if you're in the court service one, click in and um, take a look at the different web pages there. Thanks, Dee Dee. You have a great eye and we'll talk about title case when we look at that. Excellent, folks. Yeah, keep putting your kind of hot takes in the chat. And we'll talk through them in another minute or two, folks. So yeah, have a look through, maybe one more if you're finished. Give you another 2 minutes, and then we'll have a chat as a group. Interesting point, Paula. Yeah, content and scope is good, but it's just for information officers. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Thanks, Gillian. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, David. Yeah, lovely. I'd love to hear people's voices, folks. So does anyone want to talk about the Family Law Court page? Anyone want to just like maybe raise their hand with the raise your hand icon and talk about things they thought were strong and they thought they could improve on? I know it's a very hot take, but anyone want to do that? Yeah, thanks, Rochelle. Allow mic. There you go. So I should be able to unmute now, Rochelle, and speak.
You hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Rochelle.
Yeah. Um, Thanks very much. Yeah, I just like this because I thought the title was very clear. I thought the introduction was very clear. I think what they could do is there's not spaces between the paragraphs, in terms of in that text, but I do like how they speak to me in terms of it speaks quite empathetically about the anxiety around it. I like the way the navigation is in terms of those, very clear headings, how to prepare, planning a trip, etc. As someone who's experienced in terms of, through other family members gone through, it's just I think it's quite clear. I suppose when I went into one of the buttons like the how to prepare for case hearing, for example, I started to get lost then because I couldn't get back to this homepage.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
So I think, that was a bit, so when you come here, I couldn't get back to that original page.
Yeah, yeah, it's like kind of buried there in the navigation. But yeah, I get what you mean. So maybe I think that the thing on the left is quite strong, the kind of little
Yes.
chronology of it, but maybe it needs to be that needs to be a link there as well.
Yeah.
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 Good.
So that was the only,
Thanks, Rochelle. So yeah, when you have more time, folks, I really would encourage you to take a look at the preparing for family law court as an example of good practice because there's so many good aspects of it, and they worked very hard and they videos and they're using bullets and they're using lots of U language. There was one I wanted to have to show you there, and they're trying to use imagery as well. Where's the imagery of the judge and all that? Is that still there? What to expect inside a courtroom. Yeah. So, hopefully they've tested it for accessibility, but you can see they're using images and hopefully that has alternative text behind it. And they're using accordion links to kind of make it easy to scroll. They're using question formats. You don't have too many questions because it can make the content a bit longer, but I think they're trying to use some of the tips and tricks we can get across. And sometimes why I like this one, folks, is within the legal space, people will often say, oh, we can't change it because it's the law, it's the law, it's the law. And like that DSP one we looked at, oh, it's the law, we have to leave with the law. And like you have to cover yourselves and you have to follow the law and you have to inform people their statutory rights. But people come to the web for information they can use, not oftentimes like what Section 26 of the Disability Act is about. Okay, lovely. Thank you so much, Rochelle. The Bank of Ireland one, folks. I would pick this one on the services page just because, like when you look at these ones, I like the way they've kind of divided them into user needs. And then if you're looking for something like dispute a payment and you click into it, I like that they have. It might be very overwhelming. That's very, very long, but they're trying to drip feed information to you, which I thought was interesting and quite like an app. So much what we do nowadays, we interact on our phones and we only have very limited space. So I like that they front loaded so much stuff there. So I think that's an interesting way to organize things. And like when things on the web, it can be very useful to think about things in terms of steps in a process. So what's the first thing I have to do? What's the second thing? And guide people through a process. That's kind of why I like the Bank of Ireland one. Any other people want to speak about the Bank of Ireland one, folks, or things you thought were strong or not so strong, or anyone? I know it's very quick what we're doing, but anyone want to jump in? Just raise your hand. Okay, and then we go to Scope, folks. We go to Scope. So Scope, I mean, I love the Citizens Information team, and I work very strongly with them, and I know them and things like that. And they don't have as many resources as the Bank of Ireland team, so they're putting this together and with a very small kind of team. And yeah, I think they're doing a lot. They're doing a lot of things well, and all the feedback there you've said is very valid, and I'll kind of share that with them. But yeah. Yeah. Well, is anyone tempted to subscribe, folks? So if you want to subscribe to it after reading it there, there's a button there to subscribe. So, I hope you'd be encouraged it. So I just think they kind of use the inverted pyramid very well. They have try to have a descriptive headline, try to give it to you with like enough official language that it's authoritative, but not too much that's off-putting. That's really the art of like using everyday language. Like what are the technical words that you have to explain? What's the needless government jargon you can cut? So I think they're doing a good job there on a very quick turnaround and trying to digest a lot of stuff. So I think hopefully you read through that, folks, and you learned a lot from what's going on in Ireland in a very short space of time. Yeah, so there you go. There's three good examples. Examples we can improve on as well. Yeah, let's keep going, folks. So I'll just kind of go back out of that. So reference guides. Let me just do a few minutes on reference guides, and then we're going to look at one or two that people have sent in. So folks, just, number one point of reference in an Irish context is the National Disability Authority's toolkit. It's the Customer Communications Toolkit for Service to the Public, and it has sections on digital, sections on the web. And, if you look through it here, folks, all the different topics they're covering here, they have information on the web accessibility guidelines, writing for the web, content quality, links, titles, designing and developing user websites, online forms, error messages, passwords, time out messages, captchas. So, it's a really good primer for writing for the web. If you have a question, how do I do this? What's best practice? Well, the NDA, their Center for Excellence Universal Design, do a lot of research and try to keep it up to date. So that's a great place to go. The National Disability Authority's Communications Toolkit. So well done to them. And hopefully I'll send you links to all these stuff afterwards as well, folks. And then to keep on top of things, because writing for the web can be very fast moving, so one of the organizations I like to look at is the Nielsen Norman Group. And on their website, they have a whole section about like writing for the web, articles and videos. And like, okay, everyone's talking about AI. So, they'll have videos on AI and how to use it, alternative texts, what to write, not always needed. And so it's a little bit, bits and pieces, but they've lots of topics that are short and sweet, and they have videos if you want to see them. So I'd really encourage you folks to bookmark writing for the web, articles and videos from NNG, sign up to their mailing list, and, it'll keep, it in your mind, writing for the web, what's best practice. And you might not read it all the time, but you might see an article there that really helps you. And they do lots of user research and good guidelines. So the NNG and the Nielsen Norman Group in the States. And then our friends over in London, so Content Design London. So I'd really encourage you folks to similarly sign up to their newsletter, and they have great content, they have great guidelines. There's a book that was published recently enough. I know a book about writing for the web. How ironic. But it's like the second edition, and you can, it's 24 quid. I'm not plugging it. I'm not plugging it, but I read it when I did the course, and I found it very helpful, and they've updated version. So that is it's really, really good. And they have this content club as well. So quite similar to what we're doing, folks, where we're getting together and we're trying to share our experiences with content. So that's that. If you want to join one in London as well, there's a hello, we are the content club, so you can Google that and find it, and hear from people who are leaders in content and writing for the web. So that's one for you there. So that's three, folks. Irish one, an American one, and a UK one. So I think that's enough for you to start with. Grand. So let's get into the workshopy part, folks. Let's get into the workshopy part. So the way we're going to do this, folks, is we're going to say thank you so much to the people who sent on samples for this workshop, because without them, it's quite generic. And we're going to spend 20 minutes looking at these. If you have to go at 11 o'clock, folks, if you're hard stop at 11, that's fine. Thank you so much. If you can, we'll stay around for as long as people are interested and we're still looking at things. So I might ask the person who sent on this one about alone, just to, if they fancy just raising their hand, and then I'll unmute them and just introduce the kind of web page we want to look at, which is the this one. We're going to look at this one about the Community Impact Network. Thank you, Caroline. So let me just unmute you now. So when you're ready, Caroline, just introduce this web page for us. It's about the Community Impact Network and about the training schedule. So we're going to read to about here. That's what we're going to do.
Okay. Thanks, Sean. So good morning, everybody. I actually came in a couple of minutes late, so I didn't put up my little introduction. So my name is Caroline. I'm with the Lone Community Impact Network. Yeah, so this is information about our network, which we're looking to see, I guess, how we could do it better. So it's information for members or potential members. So giving them information on what the network is about and what's on offer. And I suppose it's probably the training part of what we offer. We want to make it better because it's not quite clear from the website at the minute.
Excellent. Thanks, Caroline. So we're going to look at, thank you so much, Caroline. And we're going to look at a section of this, folks. So there's the training program information that's down further, a bit too long for our purposes. So in the chat box, folks, I've put in a link there to it. And I want you to kind of read down to about here, the end of this kind of table there. And so my question is, it's similar to the questions I've asked you before. What's strong? What can we improve? But going a step further is think of user needs. Like, what is this page? What are the 2 or 3 things we want the person to do with this information? I want you to boil it down to that. And then I want you to be really strict with yourselves and think about, like, if I had to cut 50% of this content, what would be my 2 or 3 points that I want to keep? So there's a bit there. It's about the Community Impact Network. That's kind of one chunk information. And then the second chunk information is the training schedule. So yeah, I want you to have a read through it. Take your time, folks. Don't rush to make comments, because think about it, read it a couple of times. What's strong? What can we improve? And then if you wanted to cut the content by 33%, what would you try to bring out a bit more? So I'll give you a bit of time. Thank you so much. And we'll have a chat in a few minutes. all good questions, folks, in the chats. Keep going. And yeah, if I was to give you advice, I would say, what are the key points we want to bring out? Or what are we saying too much? Or where's the repetition? Think about that and put some thoughts in the chat. Thanks, Soraya. That's a good point. Thank you, Tam. It's a good point. It's an excellent point, Colette. It's an interesting point, Michelle, about maybe using case studies. Okay, I'll give you one more minute, folks, and then we'll have a chat together. So look for your colleagues' comments. Anything you want to add? Point, Rochelle. Yeah. Yeah. Anna Dean, just that's a really interesting point. Anna, if you feel comfortable, just tell us your logic for wanting to do that. I'm gonna unmute you now if I can. Allow mic. Fancy Anna. What would you do, Anna, if you were reworking the content?
Now, am I unmuted there?
You are, Anna.
Yeah. No, I didn't get very far in it, to be honest, Sean, but
Yeah.
I think I got stuck trying to read the first, just underneath about the community impact. Just a lot of it's very garbled and it's unnecessary. I still didn't really know what I'm looking for. I'm not finding. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I think maybe when you come down, then the community impact network, whatever that is, includes, then you might start to make a little bit of get some kind of an idea what to do. But the very first part, no, on all those bullet points, I didn't see any point in them.
Yeah. Thank you, Anna.
I'll say that was as far as I got because I spent too long trying to figure out what they're trying to say.
Yeah. Thank you, Anna. I'm gonna unmute Soraya. So Soraya, please come in. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you so much.
Okay.
You should be able to speak there, Soraya, if you fancy.
Oh, sorry. Yes, now. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Hello there. I think I felt a lot of empathy towards this website because I had in my previous job, I had a similar, it just resonated with me. We have similar issues, I think, when transmitting our message. I think it happens sometimes when you your work is really broad and you work with so many different cohorts of people and organizations that sometimes you can't really narrow it down. It's very difficult to narrow it down. Something we did at the time in that company was to ask some questions of who are you? Are you such, like at the time it was working with bilingualism in Ireland. So it was like, are you a professional who works with bilingual children? Are you a parent who's raising bilingual children? Are you a teacher, with a very in a very diverse school in terms of cultural backgrounds? So maybe like posing a couple of questions there, and then okay, yeah, that's actually me. Oh, that's not
Yeah.
actually me, and then maybe work from there, and perhaps that could go at the very beginning where the about section is, something that connects and attracts the customer persona, I suppose.
Yeah, thanks, Soraya. Yeah, I think like what this is about artificial folks because like people will be coming to this with like a need, and we're kind of like trying to create that need, or trying to understand that need, and trying to think about how this kind of serves that need. So, yeah, so I think people who want to join the community impact network, or they hear about it, how's it going to benefit me? How's it going to benefit my organization? So I think there's lots of great information there. And it's very, very strong. Being for me, the most interesting sentence actually was all the way down here, which was this one. In 2023, we worked with 200 organizations to deliver training, support, and resources. And I was like, wow, that's pretty impressive. And I thought maybe that could be higher up. And then like making this kind of stuff really, really concrete and specific, So what the training is there? Yes, good. Maybe one example or two examples of top things. Template documents for what? Networking opportunities. Okay, give me like an example or a current example. I thought maybe here, like this is good, but it's just too long. And I know we're writing for organizations, people who work in organizations, but maybe we could just like really condense it. And we have two kind of bullet points here, which kind of say the same thing in a way. Maybe we could strip them down or combine them. And then, like, what are the user needs? What do we want people to do, folks? Well, we want people to become members, and that's here. So we have a click here link. So maybe we could look at making that a button. And then we have sign up for registering for the training. So we have please register here. So when I had to go at editing it, I'll put this on the screen. It might be a bit small, but see what you think. I might go to view. I might go 100%. I'll go one page. Bear with me, folks. So have a look through that and just glance through that and see what you think in terms of like just the top, and I'll scroll down in a minute. I'll zoom in a tiny bit. Just a little bit of jargon there. Like, do we need to have locally, regional, nationally? Maybe work with local services to improve services. Maybe the collective is a big thing, so maybe we want to keep that. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Colette's ads organizations. Yeah, you don't want to have your favorites. We all have our favorites, but you don't want to, yeah, so have one or two big people can be good. And then becoming a member. So this is the kind of becoming a member section. So have a look through that for a second and see what you think. I know I'm skipping around quite quickly. Good idea, Paula. Yeah, I'm struggling with that. What does consolidate infrastructure actually mean? Maybe you could even maybe bold these at the start if you wanted to see what that looked like. Yeah, so that's kind of the approach, Rochelle. So it's oh, Suzanne's point there, same information but a lot less language. So in a training session, a gentleman once said, "Plain English helps us say more with less," and I like that. So I'll be stealing that. Yeah, Rochelle, would it be good if we had a slogan to summarize what they do? Cut the fluff, explain the stuff. I think they do have a slogan on their on. They probably do have a slogan. Like it's there. It kind of gets a bit lost though. But that's the kind of mantra. I think it's quite good. Developing the capacity of our members to best support older people. It's quite good. Yeah. Right. So I'm gonna move on from this, folks, so that is okay. And yeah, do I have another part here? There's oh yeah, the training part there was just very, very short. I wanted to make so I was thinking about for the training part, like we could have open sessions and tailored sessions, and then like register for training is a bit of a button, and just make it a bit short, so and have it more of a call to action. So join to do these three things. You can access training as part of your membership, register for training. And I wasn't sure what this meant. We also provide training supports for affiliated organizations. Like, what's an affiliated organization? Is that a member organization? Is that not a member organization? Is that like tailored training? So instead of open training, you join a tailored training. So that maybe that could be a bit developed a bit more. And potentially, yeah. So I was just thinking in terms of needs, and I could be wrong. It could be, but just think of like, here's one service, here's one need, here's another service, here's another need. I'm trying to make the button a bit clearer. So register for training or register for specific things. Having that one there as well as a button potentially. Are all the commas needed? Oh yes, here. Yeah, that was me, 12 o'clock last night, Paula. Good question. So that allows me to talk about punctuation, which you're excited about, Paula. Usually I would use open punctuation for things on the web. So open punctuation means avoiding commas in bullet point lists and try to really streamline it. Yeah, so that's what I work with citizens information, and we use open punctuation. So you'll notice that it's very kind of streamlined. It's all kind of like capitals at the start of a bullet point and then no punctuation, because it's very non-grammatical, but it's just what people seem to respond to on the web. They like it because they scan. Caroline, I'll send that to you if it's in any way helpful. And just thank you, Caroline. Anything to say to wrap up, Caroline?
No, thanks a million for that, John, and thanks everybody for the feedback. So we definitely knew there was some gaps and definitely room for improvement. That kind of validates even ourselves, John, the team. But like anywhere, things take a bit of time to get changes done and structures. But that was so helpful. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Caroline, and I'll copy and paste the thoughts from the group into a document, and or maybe I'll try to incorporate them into the edit, or I'll do something and send it on to you. Lovely. So it is 11 o'clock. If you have to go, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. But another person did send on a document or a web page, so I'm going to spend 10 minutes on that. If you have to go, you have to go, folks. But if you can stay, it'd be very nice if you can stay. So happy Christmas. Happy New Year if you're leaving, but let's take a look at just this one. So, yeah, would the colleague from Polio Services be there? Put their hand up and we'll get into it. Maybe they had to go. Eric or Emma Clark Conway, you're here. Yeah, Emma, do you fancy just introducing it for us? Just raise your hand so I see that you're there, Emma Clark, and then I will give you the mic. There you are, Emma. Thank you so much. Okay, so thanks for folks. Please stick around if you can. And I'm gonna just hand over to Emma and yeah, similar Emma, just introduce the content for us a little bit.
Thanks, Sean. Yeah, it's our not long launched new website, and it's just one of the sections which is really aimed at polio survivors, and it's around what we can do for them. So I suppose I'm writing this content, in various guises for many years now, and I sometimes wonder, am I too close to it that I'm not seeing whether it's plain enough, shall we say? So yeah, opinions are valued.
Yeah, thanks, Emma. As Emma Clark or Emma Clark? Emma Clark. Thank you, Emma Clark. Lovely. So yeah, so it's very similar to what we did, folks. So I'll copy and paste this in the chat now. Thank you all so much for coming. And we'll just spend 10 minutes. We'll spend 5 minutes, folks, and then we'll spend a few minutes reviewing it together, and then we'll have a chat, and then we'll finish at 10 past. So stick around if you can. So it's in the chat, Polio Services. Put yourself in the shoes, user need, think about who could be reading this. And it's kind of two parts. There's the first part, the kind of top line, and then there's the more detailed information about the very specific services. So yeah, so you might focus on the top part, and then you might scan through the bottom part just to see that there. I'll give you a few minutes. then won't open for people, folks. That's frustrating. Yeah, we might just focus on the top parts, then Soraya, rather than yeah, just in terms of time. So we'll focus really heavily on the opening paragraph, folks. So put your thoughts in the chat box there when you're ready. So what's strong? What can we improve? Just about the opening set of paragraphs. Yeah, I think the kind of similar points, folks. People are saying nice language, friendly, welcoming, might benefit from bullet points. Yeah. Is there anyone making the point about links? The headings don't open consistently. News and context direct to page. Yeah. Okay, we could look at that. Yeah. So just going back to user needs, folks, here. So just like I think it's a very short this description, and it covers a lot of ground. But like you have practical aids and appliances, that's one, and then you have physiotherapy, that's another one, and then we have hypothermia. So there's a lot packed in there in terms of user needs, and are they separate needs or similar needs? Support groups, telephone support service. What occurred to me was like, is this telephone support service the same as this telephone support service? Are they different? And just a bit of a long paragraph. So I probably should have introduced this a lot earlier, folks. But if you're looking for a tool to help you with like, is something easy or hard to read, you can also take a look at the Hemingway app. So it's a free online readability checker, and you just copy and paste your text you're working on into it, and we'll just break it up into paragraphs so we can actually see it quicker. And let's see. So this is kind of saying it's postgraduates, which I think is not that helpful because how long the sentences are, you know. So it's just a very simplistic formula where it looks at how many words are in a sentence, how many polysyllabic words are in a sentence, and how long the sentence is. And then it's kind of saying all these sentences are hard because they're very long, and it's saying it's postgraduates. I don't think it is postgraduates. I think it's just very, very long sentences. Because if you just start putting in full stops where potentially you could, you're going to make it a lot easier. So we've just by putting in 3 full stops, we've lowered the grade score. You want to aim for grade 8 or grade 9. But that's how readability checkers work. So just by getting rid of ands and putting in getting in full stops, we have made it much easier. Yeah, that's a very long sentence, hard to break that one up. But yeah, that's the Hemingway app, folks. It can be useful. And then if we take your points on board, folks, and if we use some of the things you talked about, I think this is an approach. I think it's too long considering how concise the other one is. But if we just lead through this, so if you're a polio survivor, we can provide support in many ways. There's practical aids and appliances. Maybe they don't have to be a list. Maybe it could just be a heading and then like across the page, we can help you access these 4 things because I think there's too many bullet points now. But maybe you could just call out in bold and then have like very short headings. Group support is another one. You can join one of the many support groups around the country, or if you need to chat, you can just ring. Like the word socially isolated, like I know what you're going for, but I mean, do people talk about themselves as being socially isolated? They talk about, yeah, so I was thinking maybe everyday language, maybe, maybe overthinking things, but do people talk about being socially isolated? Quite similar to alone in a way. But yeah, and then just links where appropriate. So many support groups. Okay, I know you have links in your web architecture, website architecture, but just like one or two there, just kind of builds credibility and things. And then like more information. And I was just thinking like maybe because your page on contact us, you can just put a link to that, or you can just like include the contact information that's on your contact page, which is the email, which is the call, which is the visitor rights to that. So that would be, you know, my first step in terms of taking the content, which I think is very good, having a plain language approach, seeing like, is there too many bullets now, or can we make it shorter? Is it scanning too much? But just that kind of editing will help you focus on like the language as well. One other thing I'd say about this is like there's a lot of we, if that makes sense. There's a lot of we, which is great, but how much you is there? There's only kind of two yous. Do you get what I mean? So it's more like we're doing this is great, but it's more like here's what you can do. You can access this. You can access this. Does that make sense? Rather than just saying we're doing this. And that's just a thought that occurs to me sometimes when I'm reading things on the web. Like get to the you. The we is great, but get to the you. Lovely. So Emma, I'm gonna wrap it up there just because we have 1 minute left out of my extended time. Any points you want to jump in and say, or?
No, just that's actually really great feedback, and it proves my point that I'm looking at this so long that I fail to miss the obvious. I mean, the social isolation point, you're absolutely right. Who says that about themselves? And I will definitely look at this and see how we can fix it. And thank you for the Hemingway app. I didn't know about that. That seems amazing.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Emma Clark. Lovely. So we'll just wrap things up, folks, in a nice bow. I want to ask, is that Margaret Atwood or not Margaret Atwood? But maybe you can let me know in an email because it looks so much like a Margaret Atwood. But here we'll keep going. Lovely. So I'll stick around for any questions and answers, folks. I know we've gone over time, but I will stick around for any questions or any things you have. My one last plugs, folks. If you're interested in what these webinars and supporting plain language, do join the NALA Plain English Network on LinkedIn. You can get in touch. We share resources. We organize things like this. You can get in touch and say, oh, I want to do a topic on this or like this. So writing for the web so big. Maybe next year we can look at smaller topics and get examples from the group. So yeah, if you fancy joining us, join us on LinkedIn. If you're a tutor, folks, or you have any adult education tutors in your life, do let them know that the National Forum for Adult Literacy Tutors is happening in January in the Ashling Hotel. It's a great day out. Tutors helping tutors and lots of guest speakers. So think about joining in January. If you want to do an e-learning course over Christmas, folks, and I know you want to, or you want to give someone a gift of an e-learning course, we have e-learning courses about literacy, e-learning courses about health literacy, e-learning courses about being literacy friendly in healthcare, and next year we'll have one about plain language. So I'll share that next year, and that's a little spot there we're going to put it about plain language. So look out for that. Thank you all for your time, folks. Our webinars will return in 2025, and just like Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from us and Nala, and hope to see you again soon. Thank you, Derv. Lovely. Thanks for coming along, folks. Hope you have a nice Christmas. Thanks, Erica. Great that you stuck around for a couple of them. Lovely. Yeah, I'll stick around for any questions, folks. Thank you for coming along. If people are not here, I might just ask them to leave or remove them so that the recording is short. Yeah, thanks, folks. Thanks, Alison. Oh, you put a question in the chat, Bernie. Let's see. Bernie, do you fancy just asking the question again? I'll give you the mic, or raising your hand, Bernie, so you can ask it aloud. There you are, Bernie. Give you the mic. Yeah.
Hi.
So, hi, Bernie.
Hi. Sorry, yeah, it was just something you referred to earlier, and it's something I've thought about a lot over the years. It's about title font.
Oh, yeah.
Whether that's appropriate to use or not. I mean, they love it in our organization, and when I try not to make something more plain English, it just gets changed back. Like it doesn't look fancy without title font. So I'm just curious to know in terms of, well, specifically for the web, I suppose, but just in general, what direction are we going for in terms of plain English for a heading or a title?
Yeah, so we might just talk about what it is first, so people are on board with us. So yeah, let's just look at this page. You can see my screen, folks. Yeah, so this is like this is my draft of the updated page. So how we can support you. So I've written this in what we call sentence case, which is how we normally construct the words in English. And then there's something called title case. which is this. Let me just make sure I'm doing it right. Top tip is if you press Shift and F3, you can all cap everything. And then you press a couple of times, you get title case. So you see the way that's title case there, just so everyone knows that's title case. So I generally just use title case for like the title of a document or the title of a web page or the number one thing, right? And then I use sentence case for everything else. So I would use title case just for the top thing because I think it looks impressive and it looks good.
Like a newspaper would, yeah.
Yeah. But for subheadings in things, no, because it just gets used so inconsistently. Because you'll have people using this kind of title case. They'll put it on all the nouns.
Yeah.
And they'll put it on just then they'll forget the verbs. And then sometimes they'll think, oh, support's an important word, and then you'll have it kind of inconsistent. So it's more like it's we don't like capitals where there shouldn't be for plain language. And then it just gets used inconsistently, title case. So that's why we suggest using sentence case for 99% and then for the one title that's on a web page or a document. Yeah.
No, that's great. That's very clear. It was almost so I can now go back and say, Nala, don't using title.
Well, Sean Driver in Nala. That's what he said on the 11:15 on the 13th of December. But I'll try to find Bernie. I'll try to find it's always good to have an authority rather than just than what I say from gov.uk or somewhere else. I'll try to find that and send it to you. Okay.
Reads better, but yeah, it's definitely not something people want to get on board with.
Yeah.
At the moment, in our place, particularly for documents, but also for the web, I guess. But thanks for that, yeah, it'd be great. If you do find anything or you have it, that'd be fantastic.
Well, Neva's saying it's so overused, and I think Dee said it earlier. Title case, it's so overused, and
no, thanks for that. That was great.
Thanks.
Ed as well. Happy Christmas. Thank you.
You too, Bernie. Good to see you again.
Bye. Thank you.
Right. Lovely. So we might thanks so much, folks. If you have a question, please ask. Otherwise, I'm just going to remove people so that's the one with the recording. Lovely. Thank you, Derv. Thank you, Leanne. We'll have a chat in a few minutes, I'm sure. Okay. That's everyone, yeah?
Yeah. Well done.
Thanks, folks. I'll chat to you.
So good at that, Sean.
I'll chat to you because it's on the recording. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.